I was rolling with an at the time blue belt. He's since graded purple. You can see his grading photo here. And I was getting soundly handled. On the rare occasions I could summon any offense, it was quickly countered and I was again enveloped by limbs. While he wasn't aggressively pursuing submissions, there were still sufficient taps to fill a plumbing showroom. He had me firmly controlled and it became clear that there was nothing I could do. Nothing that would actually be effective, nothing that would allow me to meaningfully escape for anything but moments, and certainly nothing in the way of my own offense. None of this was new to me. I had trained for a bit at this point, and if you're a white belt, you're no stranger to the feeling of getting utterly thrashed. But something about it was hitting differently today. The sheer futility of my struggle was especially vivid. As ever, I knew all I could do was train a lot, and for many years, and that really didn't seem practicable within the 5 minutes allocated to this particular round. Now, a lot of people who don't have experience in BJJ will have difficulty understanding just how insurmountable the skill difference can be when you roll against a higher belt. I could keep struggling against him and attempt another escape, but I would do so knowing the effort will be largely futile. To add extra insult to injury, the guy barely looks like he's trying. There's no strain or exertion on his face. He's not puffing or breathing hard. He could be relaxing on the couch for all the strain that he's showing. Nonetheless, he has me utterly flummoxed and is keeping me so with small, precise, and largely fairly gentle movements. At this point, I was a few rolls deep, and so despite my current predicament, my head was starting to become a lovely mess of the good stuff. The wonderful cocktail of happy chemicals the brain releases as we exert ourselves. It was an odd mix, the mix of jiu-jitsu itself being utterly humbled while on top of the world. And then the epiphany hit me. There is nobility in the struggle. And so, knowing it was hopeless, I struggled on, and on, and on, and on, for 10 to 15 years, and then they gave me a black belt. No, I'm still a white belt. Hi, I'm Josh. Welcome to the channel, an aging white belt nerd's perspective on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and to a lesser degree combat sports in general. You better believe I'm leaving the door open for some non-BJJ content as well. Now, to be very clear, being a white belt, I am not here to be an expert. Any opinions I give are my own, and any techniques or whatever I talk about will be talked about through the lens of what works for me. While I might occasionally want to draw upon the opinions of experts and share them on my channel, in general, I just want this to be a place where we hang out and enjoy jiu-jitsu. I will consider it a personal failure if you learn anything from me at all. If you'd like to support this channel, please drop a like or subscribe, or support the wonderful people who support me. Speaking of which, today's inaugural episode is brought to you by Dogs of War Photography. Full disclosure, Dogs of War Photography is my brand and my business, but imagine that this was your brand. Dog specialises in combat sports photography, having covered events at the highest levels like the UFC. Whether it's a well-lit pro show or intimate venues under house lights, we use our skills and experience to deliver amazing results and memories that will last long after the final bell sounds. Is William Lou Photography busy? Then contact Dogs of War Photography today to discuss a quote, but only if you have fat stacks of cash, because excellence comes at a price. Also, thank you so much to Jamie Murray, my awesome instructor, for letting me film in his awesome gym, Renegade. If you're in Melbourne and want to train, give it a look in. Eventually I will present videos without sounding like I'm reading in this annoying YouTuber cadence. Give me time. Promise we'll get there. So where were we? Oh yes, I'm meditating on the nobility in the struggle as I do very poorly against a very skilled blue belt. And I know you must be hearing this and thinking, holy crap Josh, you're a hero, and while that is indisputably true for a great many reasons, I don't want to overstate the case in this particular scenario. Getting smashed and dealing with it is a constant part of BJJ, especially at white belt, but it seems like pretty much at any belt from what I've seen. So nothing I am relating is about me being uniquely brave. It's an average class on any given day. It's one of the many smashings you will cop before something starts to work. And even after something starts to work, there will be many more smashings in your future. As my coach is often wont to say, jiu-jitsu isn't easy. This can be confronting to the ego, but this dance with the ego is one of the things I really, really, really love about BJJ. Now, it's fair to say if you're like me and you consume a whole heap of BJJ YouTube, then you've probably heard this topic talked about a fair bit before. In fact, there's really not much that hasn't been said when it comes to BJJ, and along those lines I have to give a shout out to Bulletproof of BJJ podcast, who kind of put this ego topic in my head. I thank them for the awesome podcast, which I've really been smashing lately, and for the inspiration. So while this might not be the first time you've ever heard opinions like these, hopefully I can give my own new and interesting spin on them. To be clear, I'm not just referring to being competitive here, though that's a part of it, but ego runs much deeper. I believe ego management is a huge part of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for non-competitive people too. And by that I mean specifically people who don't intend to compete or go in competitions. Because whether or not you want to win competitions, you probably don't want to feel like you're terrible at something. Feeling like you're actually improving will be an important motivator for you to keep going. For the wrong kind of ego, you have the wrong kind of ego. For the wrong kind of ego, being controlled easily, being tapped out, not seeing immediate improvement, this can all be a bit much, and they quit. To stick around on the mat and get better requires that you accept something that the rest of your life rarely forces you to do, that you suck. You'll need to humble yourself sufficiently to accept that, and that you are an ignorant novice and a student. And if you're the kind of person who walks through life needing to feel like the teacher, that might be something quite difficult to get used to. It's so very easy for our ego to protect us from these sorts of unpleasant realizations within our normal lives. We didn't get that job because the interviewer was biased. We totally won that argument. We know just as much as that expert. We never lose and we are never wrong. And if we ever do lose or are wrong, our ego will spin a glorious tale to let us know that actually we did win, or we didn't, but there's totally a good reason and an explanation that means that actually we did, or could have. It's very hard to deny that you just tapped. It's very hard to lie to yourself and say, I totally could have won. Obviously, there's no winning when you're training in the gym, you know what I mean. I could have won, but when the memory of getting absolutely handled and not being able to do much about it is so fresh in your mind, that kind of copium is going to elude you. It's an oft-repeated BJJ cliche, but it's true. Whatever you may think in your head, the cold, hard, or warm and sweaty, indisputable truth will come out on the mat. A lot of people like to talk about how BJJ kills the ego, however, and I think that's a little bit hilarious. It will be a constant companion on and off the mats. You'll agonize over why the guy you had a really good roll with last week is smashing you this week. You'll be tempted to lie to yourself about the answer, and you will compare yourself to others over and over and over and over again. And even though you really earnestly feel like you don't care whether you quote unquote win or not, you spend 6 months playing the same game, refusing to try anything new because you don't want to lose position doing something that you're not quite as good at. So it's A game all the way. I'm pretty bad for this one, I have to admit. You'll have a bad class, convince yourself that you're awful, you're not getting any better, and you will want to quit. Some of you, though, will tell yourself that you actually don't have an ego, you killed it, and you're not subject to any of these sorts of mental struggles. But that, my friend, is exactly what an ego would tell you. Copium. Every now and then, though, amongst the struggle, You'll be lying there, exhausted, covered in sweat, blissful on the good stuff, and you'll know that comparison is the thief of joy. That it doesn't matter how good anyone else is, that we're all on our own journey, that we're here in the gym, we're healthier than we were before, we're getting better, and for at least the next hour or so, all is right with the world. And if you're like me, you're lucky and you find a great gym, you know you'll be rolling alongside people who are wrestling with that same demon, and yet despite that, you help each other to get better. Because the warmth of community, seeing people you kind of like a little bit getting better, and sharing the knowledge of BJJ feels way better than tapping some guy for the 20th time with the same move. You don't hate the people that humble you, you thank them for it, and you willingly come back for more. Now, of course, you can wrestle with the ego in many areas of your life, but I think the fact you're doing so against active resistance really helps ram home the lesson with BJJ. The extra oomph that drives the lesson home in the form of literally forcing another human being to submit. I love this battle. It's fascinating, and nothing else in life gives it to me in quite the same way. There's something character building in knowingly fighting losing battles until you get better. Who doesn't love a good last stand scene? I'm sure it probably also helps improve my character off the mats, but who cares what happens there? The realities become undeniable when mat time is viewed in aggregate. You can only run from the truth so long. The only way out is hard work, not just physically and in the form of technique, but also mentally, in being able to walk off a bad session and not get a big head over a good one, though believe me, I will still do that. Try not to though. You know what? I think I might actually be incredible at this ego management stuff. If only I was as good as that other guy in the gym. Thank you for joining me for this video, the first in a series about what I love about BJJ. Next episode will be on the health benefits, mental and otherwise. I'd love to have you join me for that. Until then, let me know in the comments what you love about BJJ. I'd love to feature these comments in future videos. Keep an eye out for more BJJ content, and if you've got any questions or suggestions for topics to cover or challenges to do, then please drop them in the comments. Thanks heaps to Ollie and Chris for rolling in the B-roll. Appreciate you guys. Your jiu-jitsu is scary. How are you white belts and this good? All right, peace. Thank you, gentlemen. Roll us out.